Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Watch UFC 288 this Saturday night at Walters, just across the street from the ballpark, as UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling takes on Henry Cejudo.
Go to waltersdc.com/events to reserve your space now and receive a $5 beer wall card.
Now a swing and a fly ball sliced toward the left field corner. Long run for Fletcher into the corner, and this ball is gone. Goodbye into the Arizona bullpen. It's an opposite field home run for Luis Garcia.
310 hitter from the left side. Hits this one hard toward left center field. Call going back, still going back. Call's going to look up, and this one is gone. Home run number 5 for Corbin Carroll, and this ties the game at 1. Switch hitting Marte, hitting from the left side. Hits this one the other way. Call is there to his right, makes the catch. He'll throw in, tagging from third, and coming in is Moreno. And the Diamondbacks lead it by a count of 3-1 on the sacrifice fly by Ketel Marte.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Saturday, May 6th, 2023, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So MLB's new schedule has fewer division games, and so that has the Nats making a second trip out west in less than a month. That first trip out west was part of the Nats' 4-11 start to the season. This second trip out west has come at a time in which the Nats are playing a lot better, but this second trip out west did not get off to a good start. A 3-1 loss at the Arizona Diamondbacks late night on Friday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series. Nats now 13-19. Their 3-game winning streak is over. Josiah Gray's run of 5 consecutive good, or at least solid starts, is over, although as we've talked about with the not-so-great starts from Mackenzie Gore, if this is the worst of things, we certainly can live with that. Gray on Friday night, 3 runs in 5 innings. Hitting was the problem for the Nats on Friday night. Merrill Kelly was the problem for the Nats on Friday night, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, Al, it's funny. I thought to myself, okay, Luis Garcia hits a first-inning home run. The roof's open here. The ball really travels well. And I'm thinking, okay, this might actually be a night when they put a few balls in the air and watch it fly. And boy, wouldn't that be nice for a change. And then the problem is you can't hit it out if you don't even make contact. And Merrill Kelly was just not allowing them to make contact. And he's a good pitcher. I'm not going to take anything away from him. 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. But you would have liked to see them just get the bat on the ball a little bit more, because this is a lineup. If there's one thing they can do, it's make contact. And so when Keibert Ruiz is striking out 3 times in a game, that says to me something weird's going on, whether it's just how good Kelly was or just how off some of these guys were not seeing the ball well, because we're used to them scoring 1 run in a game, but not necessarily in this manner in which just the simple act of making contact was a huge challenge for them.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of the games in which the Nats have not scored many runs, we have seen base runners. And, we've seen them go 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position. The Nats on Friday night 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. 2 at-bats the entire game with runners in scoring position. Just the 1 run, just 4 hits, the Garcia homer and 3 singles. The Nats worked just 1 walk. And yeah, I mean, it was about as ho-hum of an offensive game as we have seen from the Nats so far this season. There's no doubt that Merrill Kelly was excellent. 1 run in 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, like you said, only issued 1 walk, only gave up 4 hits. And boy, did he pound the zone. 92 pitches, 63 strikes versus 29 balls. And I know that that's something that Davey Martinez talked about in his post-game session with you guys. I mean, Kelly was up there throwing 1 strike after another. And that's about as good as an opposing starting pitcher has looked in terms of Nats games this season.
Sure, and they've seen some pretty good ones already this season. So this one stacks right up there with any of them. Throwing to all the quadrants of the plate, using a changeup, using a cutter. I mean, he had it all going. But again, I just come back to in some of those situations, get the bat on the ball. try to make something happen. I even, as much as we've complained about this in certain situations with runners on base this year, I was actually looking for somebody, including Victor Robles, to try to get a bunt down. Maybe you could beat it out, get something going there. And there was just none of that in this game. They just really never had anything going. And after the second inning, they just didn't even have any chances to do anything. A couple of singles and nothing else.
Yeah, Alex Call 0 for 4. Joey Meneses 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. CJ Abrams 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Victor Robles 0 for 3 with a strikeout. And you mentioned Keibert Ruiz, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. And that, of course, stands out because he is such a good, bat-to-ball guy. He's not someone who strikes out a lot, and yet he struck out 3 times in this game. He did have a good defensive play in this game, so I do want to give him credit for that. But Keibert Ruiz now, over his last 4 games, 0 for 16, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. He clearly is not in a great place offensively right now.
No, and he admitted it, and he's a little frustrated. I thought it was interesting that he said he feels like it's a product of this. He's hit some balls hard and they're being caught, and he's been denied some hits, and he thinks that might be getting to him a little bit. And now he's trying to do too much all of a sudden and getting out of his element and not doing what he does well. And maybe you saw some signs of that in this one where he's expanding the zone. A couple of those strikeouts are in pitches well out of the zone. That's not who he is. We know the pitches in the zone, he's going to make contact, but he doesn't need to be swinging out of the zone to that extent. So I did sense some frustration on his part, and maybe some of the bad luck earlier in the week with hard contact that didn't produce hits is actually getting to him. And, you can understand that, but it's about staying in the moment, staying in control, and knowing who you are as a hitter. He swings a lot, but he's not a free swinger. He swings at pitches in the zone. And if you're him, you've got to make sure those pitches are in the zone before you even take a hack at it.
Yeah, he's also not, especially at this point in his career, a number 3 batter. And, you see in this lineup, guys are being put in spots that they're just not made for right now. Like we know the deal with the Nats. It's not a great offensive team, certainly not from a power hitting standpoint. But you look at this lineup. I mean, Keibert Ruiz is your number 3 batter. Joey Meneses, your number 4 batter. I mean, Meneses' numbers for the season really are not very good, especially from an on-base percentage and slugging percentage standpoint. And so, yeah, I mean, you have guys right now who are very over-slotted in this lineup. And, I don't know that there's much that you can do about that. I mean, I guess hopefully at some point you get to a point with a guy like, say, a CJ Abrams, a Luis Garcia, and Garcia batted second and has been batting second lately, but where those guys can bat higher in the order. But for now, it feels like you have a lot of square pegs and round holes in the lineup in terms of how guys are doing and who they are versus where they are batting in Davey Martinez's order.
Yeah, and in a weird way, their best hitters right now are the guys at the bottom. And there's a reason, because they're supposed to be bottom of the order hitters. It's certainly in Victor Robles' case, he's not supposed to be the best hitter on the team. And I don't think all of a sudden if he leads the team in OPS that Davey's going to bump him up to the number 2 or 3 spot. That's not who he is. It's more a reflection of the guys who were supposed to be the heart of this lineup just not delivering. And look, it's been a rough month plus for Joey Meneses. We haven't talked about it a lot. I know there was still always this feeling of, hey, this guy, even if he's not all-star caliber, he looks like a professional hitter. Well, at times he really has not looked like that so far this year. I'm not saying it's time to give up on it. I don't even know what, or how many other options they have right now, but you'd like to start to see something. And this isn't him driving balls to the warning track. Remember early in the year that was happening and they're being caught? There's a lot of weak contact. There's a lot of pop-ups to the right side, getting jammed. He has not looked like a, really good major league hitter. And unfortunately, with what they have, he's going to keep hitting in the middle of the lineup because they don't have an alternative. But I'll be interested to see as we move forward, is there a point where Davey has to say, well, hang on a second, maybe we do need to drop this guy in the order, give him some days off here and there, because the production is not what anybody was hoping for.
Yeah, so with Joey Meneses, we know the deal, right? 2 excellent months at the end of last season. We're now into the second month of this season. If we get to a point at which it's 2 bad months this season off 2 excellent months last season, and the bad of Meneses outweighs the good, you do start to wonder if, maybe the bad is more who he is as opposed to the good. You look at Joey Meneses' slash line now for this season, the batting average is 267. That's, not terrible by any stretch. He has had a good number of singles, but the on-base percentage is at 294. The slugging is down to 336. And again, he's routinely batting in that number 4 spot, overslotted in the lineup. So with the Luis Garcia home run on Friday night, this was something 1 run first, a 1-out opposite field solo homer just inside the left field foul pole. 344 feet per StatCast. Like, that is about as short of a home run as you will ever see in a major league game. 344 feet. I feel like that caught everyone by surprise that ball ended up being a home run.
It was one of those off the bat that you're thinking, oh, that's kind of slicing. Oh, hey, maybe there's a chance it's going to fall in for a double. No, wait a minute. Hang on. It's over the fence. And that's why I said with the roof open here, I'm thinking, okay, if he's doing that, then that may be a good sign. If they just get the ball in the air, it might fly. They might be able to do something. Now, the funny thing is I thought the same thing might go the other way. And Corbin Carroll got a hold of one off Josiah Gray, but then they didn't do anything else the rest of the night in terms of that against him either. So it was a little strange. I kind of expected a higher scoring game on both sides in this one, but good for Garcia to do that. He was one of the few who had some success with a couple of hits in the game. You know, good to see him go the opposite field and do something with that. But in that moment, I would not have thought that would be the only run in the game the Nationals would score.
No, and, this does go down as another Nats game this season in which early in the game, the Nats do something, and then as the game goes on, the Nats do not do much offensively.
Hey, Nats Chat listeners, Tim Shovers here, producer of the podcast, to tell you about Game Time. Do you struggle sometimes to find tickets to your favorite events? Buying tickets to these shouldn't be stressful. That's why you should look into the Game Time app. It's even harder these days with the lack of paper tickets available on the street. If you're looking for tickets to Nats, DC United, or even the Drake concert this summer, Game Time offers the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country. For a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account at gametime.co and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
2 balls, 1 strike. Bases loaded. The pitch from Gray. Rojas chops it high in the air left side. Abrams will not get. Oh, they're going to call him out at second base. The run scores. The Diamondbacks will take the lead 2-1 on the play. Abrams at the last minute, after indecision, took a stab with the foot to tag the base. That ball took a gigantic hop. Abrams, they're going to call him out at second. Roberto Ortiz, and immediately the runner Perdomo put the hands to the side of his head, wanting them to challenge.
I think the D-backs are going to challenge this.
And I think they should. I think he's safe. And they do call him safe.
So Josiah Gray was the National starting pitcher late night on Friday night. And, I guess you would classify this as not a good outing for him, but still it was 3 runs in 5 innings. So like I said at the top of the show, if this is the worst of what we get from Josiah Gray, I think we all can live with that. So 3 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits, a home run, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks and a wild pitch. He did have 6 strikeouts, so that was good. And he did throw a lot of strikes. He just also threw a lot of pitches. 5 innings, 92 pitches, 60 strikes versus 32 balls. He did give up that home run by Corbin Carroll that Mark referenced earlier. Was an opposite field solo homer by Carroll with 2 outs and what ended up being a 1-run Diamondbacks third. Just the second home run given up by Gray since he gave up 3 home runs in his first start of this regular season. And the other Josiah Gray moment that stands out, 2-run fourth for the Diamondbacks, a throwing error by Josiah on an infield single by Gabriel Moreno. This was a comebacker to Gray. He initially looked at throwing to second base, then shifted to throwing to first base. I don't know if that was part of why the throw was off, but the throw was off. And the Diamondbacks wound up with runners on second and third with no outs. In one respect, you could say, hey, Gray did a good job in that inning because that inning could have been a lot worse. I mean, second and third, nobody out, only ends up being a 2-run inning for the Diamondbacks, but tough defensive moment there. Not a great outing, but, obviously not like a terrible outing either for Josiah Gray on Friday night.
And he made that point you were just saying that maybe in the past that could have blossomed into a much worse inning than it was. So he was happy about that. And They're just turned a little sloppy there, back-to-back plays where you have, I think it caught him by surprise. He almost catches the line drive on the comebacker. He drops it and he thinks, well, that was so quick, I must have a play at second. He turns and realizes, no, there is no play. And by the time he did that, too much time had elapsed. And now he realized, oh no, I have to rush the throw to first. And he made a bad throw. And he said, if he had a chance to do it all over again, he would have just taken the ball, taken a breath, stepped to first, get the out. In that situation, just get whatever out you can get. So he was kicking himself over that one. But, if that's the worst that he had and he still comes out of this allowing only the 3 runs in 5 innings, and one of the other runs was on another kind of sloppy play by CJ Abrams as well, then yeah, that's not bad. He had good stuff in this game. His fastball was consistently 95. He topped out at 96 on a strikeout of Alec Thomas. That was nice to see, both the velocity but also the confidence and success for him in that pitch. Now, the home run came on a fastball. We know that was the issue last year, and that was one that leaked back over the plate. But hey, it's one solo homer. We can't expect him to be perfect at keeping the ball in the yard. So, I thought he did fine. I think if it's a different situation, if it's a tie game or down 1 run, maybe Davey would have let him go another inning. And all of a sudden we're saying quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs. But at that point, I think Davey was like 92 pitches. Let's just not push this and move on to the next one. But, he wasn't bad. He certainly was not bad, but he knows he can be better, especially just those little fine tuning things that he takes pride in.
And the Nats bullpen did end up being very effective in this game. No, Hunter Harvey did not pitch on Friday night. We did not get a 4th consecutive day of Hunter Harvey pitching, nor did we get a 4th consecutive day of Kyle Finnegan pitching. Davey, kind of laughed when he got asked about those 2 guys during the post-game session.
Yeah, we're not pitching tonight, no.
I think there would have been a riot among Nationals fans, especially if Harvey had pitched for a 4th straight day. But you did get Erasmo Ramirez and Hobie Harris, and they were good. Erasmo, 2 scoreless innings. Hobie, a perfect bottom of the 8th inning. But with this Hunter Harvey thing, because, that was fascinating to see Davey go to him for a 3rd consecutive game. Harvey struggled. The Nats, of course, ended up with the great walk-off win. I know you talked to him prior to this game on Friday. What did he have to say about pitching for a 3rd consecutive day? The injury history is obvious. The concern is clear that, you're overworking a guy who has this undeniable injury history. But where was he with pitching for a 3rd consecutive day?
So I was really interested to hear his side of it and what did he think about it and how did he feel about it? And he said a couple things. Number one, he actually viewed this as like an important milestone in his career. He had never done it before. And that was a big deal for him, both that Davey had the faith in him to do that, but also that he felt well enough to do it. And he was adamant to say that, he knows people will look at the result and say, oh, it must be because he was tired or he wasn't, at 100%. And he said, no, he said he just didn't execute his pitches. Now, that may be wishful thinking on his part. And maybe if he is fresh, it's a different outcome. But he really did not view the results of that game as a byproduct of the fact that it was his 3rd straight day. He said physically he came out of it feeling fine. And he even felt better the day after than he thought he would. And, he wasn't looking to pitch another one. But he talked about, and Davey talked about as well, that they've developed some trust between each other. And if Hunter Harvey, who has gone through plenty of injuries, he kind of knows what the warning signs are at this point. And he said if he felt something, he would speak up and he would tell him, no, I can't go. And it happened to him last year and he did go on the IL. But if not, he's going to say he's good to go and Davey's going to trust him for that. Now, I don't think this is going to be a regular thing. They're not going to let him go 3 nights in a row all the time. Same with Finnegan. It's a long season. You can't be doing that. But in a weird way, he tried to look at it as a positive, as this was an important step for him in his career, something he had never done before. And he kind of proved to himself that, yes, his arm can hold up to that. Now, let's see. Maybe he'll get another night off. We'll see how that all goes. We'll see how he performs after all this. But even though he was upset with the result, he was happy with the way he felt and the fact that he could do it in the first place.
Yeah, I think with the Davey Harvey thing, you have to be sort of logical about this. Davey Martinez is not some sadist, okay? He's not going to purposely put someone out there with the idea of, I don't care if he gets hurt, I have to win this game in early May, nothing else matters, right? So you got to think that the Harvey injury history was on Davey's mind when Davey had Hunter Harvey pitching for a 3rd consecutive day. What I think, though, is so tricky is that with this guy's injury history, he may know the warning signs, but especially now as he's getting older, he got drafted almost 10 years ago now. You may not know when something's about to go with your body. And I think that is what is so dicey with him. It's like you're walking a tightrope and he's pitched so well. I would be surprised if we saw this again anytime soon. I just feel like you're flirting with danger. You're asking for trouble if you do this with any kind of frequency with Harvey. I mean, if you do this with any reliever, you're really kind of asking for problems, but especially with Harvey. So I get what he was saying to you, and I think there is something to that because, a few years ago, Hunter Harvey pitching for a third consecutive day was unthinkable, so the fact that he did it is kind of an achievement. But yeah, I just think you have to be so careful with him because, we could spend an hour talking about all of the injuries this guy has had. It really has been something, and he's pitched so well, you just hate to disrupt that in any way.
Yeah, 100%. And he would agree, and I asked him, if Davey had said, no, you can't do it, what would you have thought? He said, I'd be disappointed, but I would understand why he was treating me that way. He knows the history, of course. And I agree. I don't think this is something that's going to happen regularly. Davey is very cognizant of it. And let's also remember, it was a kind of unique set of circumstances that led to that happening, where they were in a position to win 3 straight games close, late, like that. And that's great that they're in that position. Do we think that's going to happen all the time? 3 straight games that they're in a position like that? Maybe not. But I'll be interested to see if and when that comes up again. Is he able to hold off? And then secondly, who does he go to instead? Now, it didn't come up in this game. I was curious if they had a lead or if it was close, who would have closed. Mason Thompson, Carl Edwards Jr., would Andres Machado get into the mix at all for late innings? He has some interesting options there. But I'll be curious when that time comes, who he does go to instead.
Yeah, because I think what we've seen with the bullpen is that there isn't a lot of trust in guys not named, say, Finnegan, Harvey, and Thompson. And it's going to be hard to navigate this season if you only truly trust 3 guys. Like, you're probably going to have to try to force some trust into some other guys. And we'll kind of see where that goes. One more thing on Harvey. So I know a lot of teams, they don't just assess a pitcher from like what they're seeing. Like, there's biomechanical data that they're taking in, they're monitoring things like the guy's spin rate. I'm assuming the Nats do that with their pitchers, right? That like they're trying to gauge if a guy's fatigued before he even necessarily appears to be fatigued.
Yeah, they have all kinds of information. Harvey Sharman, who is their director of medical services, was brought in several years ago specifically with that in mind, the biometrics and baseline stuff and being able to try to pick up potential problems before they become too big of a problem. I don't know specifically in this case, had they looked at numbers and said, okay, yeah, he's good to pitch today or not. I don't know if it gets that specific. But yeah, they do absolutely use that kind of information and try to make their best decisions as much as they can off of it.
All right, so Mackenzie Gore will start game 2 for the Nationals at the Diamondbacks on Saturday night. Remember, Gore is coming off one of his poor outings this season, that 5-1 loss to the Chicago Cubs at Nationals Park this past Monday night, 4 runs in 4 innings. The start prior to that, Gore was outstanding. 4-1 win at the New York Mets on April 26th, 1 run in 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. So, I don't know if you even call this like a bounce-back start for Gore, but, in some ways, I guess it is. He is coming off one of his poor outings here this season. The Diamondbacks are a tricky team. Good record, positive run differential, have been excellent defensively. They don't really scare you when you look at the lineup, but the Diamondbacks are actually playing pretty well. So, in a lot of ways, this will be a pretty legitimate test for Mackenzie Gore on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think so. There are some pretty good hitters. We saw Corbin Carroll, why they just gave him a big contract. He does look like the real deal there. What we didn't see as much in this game is they run a lot, and it didn't, for whatever reason, come up as much here. And, the one play we didn't talk about, the Keibert Ruiz running down the guy all the way, starting on one runner on the right side, then going around to get the other guy towards third base. Reminded me, remember the Alex Avila play that ended the game a couple of years ago? Reminded me of that. So thank God he didn't strain his calves trying to make that play. But the D-backs did not run as much as maybe they're used to, and I'll be interested if they try to do that against Gore, if they have a chance or not. But it looks like a decent team. They have 2 really good pitchers, I think, in Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, who the Nats are not going to see in this series. We saw them play pretty good defense in this game, and in theory, they should run a lot too. So we'll see if that changes the rest of the weekend. Yeah,
Diamondbacks came into this series number 3 in the majors in defensive runs saved, and even just like a moment like this, the Luis Garcia single, top of the 6th, a 1-out single to the right center field gap. Pavin Smith, the Diamondbacks right fielder, did such a good job of running into the gap to prevent that ball from going further, to prevent Garcia from turning that single into a double. Like, little things like that are a part of great defense. And, we saw that from the Diamondbacks on Friday night. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on Twitter @Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. We'd love to have you on board. Email Tim Shovers, natschatpodcast natschat@gmail.com. We have a new website, natschatpodcast.com. You can listen to previous installments of the show. You can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt as well. You can find us on Instagram, too, at Nats Chat Podcast. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Thank you to Tim Newmark for the Nats Chat Podcast music. Visit timnewmark.com. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Jankowski leading off second. The kick and the pitch. Sliders in the dirt. And the runner's caught between second and third. Avila running at him. Avila still running at him. Avila still running at him. He's going to tag him out. What a play by the Nationals catcher, Alex Avila. Runner gets caught off second. The best rundown play is when you never throw the baseball. And the catcher out to the shortstop position, deked and faked, and eventually ran him down himself and tagged him out.